actually have quite a lot of questions, so I will cherry pick some of those. Please pass the mic. Let me start with the first question from Carl, which I think is really fascinating. So, what is your one example of learning that you figured out during the product discovery that really changed your mind and even maybe let you pivot your thinking about the problem that you're solving? And maybe, Peter, if you want to start, is there something like this? So, Tom.
Yeah, well, we had quite a few of these moments. And I think like the most brutal moment is when you have a hypothesis about needs and you discover that the customers don't give a shit, or the users are like some minions in the company who don't care about the functionality. So that's like a pilot moment.
Okay, I think that it doesn't happen like a one call will change your mind completely. Usually it takes several calls to convince you that maybe you are doing something wrong. So I don't think that that's going to happen, maybe even in a matter of 1 week. It's a gradual process where you start learning more and more, and then you get more confident that you need to change something. So I actually didn't experience that something that would totally shock me. I experienced that something which we were high hopes for and our hypothesis was really strong. That's something quite often like you hear, like we have a strong hypothesis, and then you learn that it's only your, but the customers don't care. Yes, I experienced it as well.
Thank you, guys. Remember that when you have a mic, do you have any secret tip how to convince others in the organization that product discovery is actually something that should be followed, something that you use to persuade others?
Yes, so I would say that you don't have to convince anyone. You're doing it for yourself. If you want to be better at your job, just go and do it. Don't ask anyone. You don't have to ask for permission. You saw that in 24 hours you can set up a free tools. You already have Zoom or you have Meet. Use those tools which you have available and just go and talk to customers. And you're gonna learn so many valuable insights. Then if you go and speak to the stakeholders and tell them, look, I learned this with no budget, in no time, that they're gonna start believing that this is something worth investing into. So that's you just need to start.
Tomas, what is your experience?
Actually, it's quite interesting because although I agree that the team has like the flexibility to use Zoom calls to get feedback, I think that like doing discovery means giving the product teams more autonomy and responsibility, and that's kind of like the biggest shift that was in company I was working with, and I think the biggest eye opener, and I've heard it also on many different presentations, is visualize how some stakeholder ideas went or resulted in wasted effort. So start from analyzing, and then you can create a buy-in for the stakeholders to invest more into discovering than into delivering.
Yeah, I think there are two ways of looking at this. One way is, one super effective thing is to include people. If you have someone you want to convince, if you have someone you need to convince, show them the fuck-ups. Take them to do a on-the-go bootstrap usability testing of something that someone had a really strong opinion about, and see how people totally blow at that task. So that's an amazing thing how to spread. Okay, this is important to talk to people. And another thing, there's a way I like to think about it and I like to present and sell this. Doing a good product discovery is a way of buying insurance. You want to insure yourself that you won't do a bad decision, or you're not operating on like some cherry-picked data that someone liked. And this is something, okay, it costs something, but it can prevent like a big damage further down the road. So this is one track you can follow.
Thank you very much. Ilana, there is a specific question for you. You mentioned that you have some amazing experience with the problematic customers. Any tips how to deal with them?
Yes, it's going to be painful, as I mentioned. They don't really like you, but you just have to overcome it. There's no easy way out of this. And you know, good tip is to be really open with them about what you are facing. If you cannot do anything about their situation, tell them. Right? They might churn, but you're not going to be wasting their time. You're not going to be wasting your time. But they will appreciate that you are open with them. If you will tell them, yes, maybe we're going to do it in the next quarter, you will be surprised the next quarter comes very quickly. And if you don't do it on your regular call, that's not an easy conversation to have. So be really open with them. They surprisingly, to my experience, they accept even the negative response quite well compared to if you keep postponing the resolution date, because they tell their boss, and then he is expecting that. So there you go.
Any other recommendations from you guys?
Ruminations. Well, I encountered it multiple times in calls that a customer was giving us feedback about the feature multiple times, and there was this really pissed off, like, why haven't you shipped this yet, and what does it take so long? And in that situation, it helped me to kind of like invoke empathy to the customer. Even like, yeah, I understand, but you know, we have this whole customer base, and overall, globally, we think these issues are pretty important, cause frustration, etc. And surprisingly, they agreed. They didn't, and I was open, like, yeah, I understand this is our finding, but you can tell me why you think like this is much more important than our current focus. And most of the time, then didn't bring up those arguments. It might be biased, but the empathy was the key for not feeling awkward in calls.
Okay, then thank you, Tomen. Peter, I have a question for you, because you had a session how to start actually with product discovery, and there's a question: how do you actually go about implementing product discovery in an organization where it's non-existent? How to start? What's the first step, baby step?
Yeah, I think Johan covered a lot of that. Start with cheap stuff. Start with do not ask for permission. Just do it just on the go, on the fly, in your free time if you have to, if you really want to. And then try to involve other people slowly as well. You will find someone who's on similar vibe in the company with you, or in the team, or someone who's responsible about something or has ownership about something, and just slowly expose them to bits and pieces of not just the information, but of the process of try to like make it as cooperative as possible, and try to involve as many people as possible.
If I may add something interesting that popped into my mind is interestingly, it was a long while ago we bought or we received advice from the stakeholders about the discovery, but what we are still struggling is getting the buy-in from the developers about the discovery, because like developers want to ship and build, and they don't want to think and do workshops and discovery and research, etc. So that's like an ongoing interesting challenge for me.
There's a nice thing, like you can like throw it back and say, okay, you own this, you should own this part as well. So.
Not really.
Thank you guys. Dilana, you had a piece in your session about the customers that pay the most are the most important ones. How do you go about not making those customers like the ultimate customers and becoming a niche product? How do you do not close the door to the open market?
Yeah, I don't think so. There is necessarily anything bad about being a niche product. You can have a lot of success with being a niche product. I think, on the contrary, like if you try to make everyone happy, it's not going to end well either. And if you become a true expert in one domain, in one niche, it may be your very strong suit, because then you can go into this niche, to that market, and really talk to them from a position of experience and someone who already covers large part of the market. Then the sales process is actually quite easy. So I don't think it's necessarily too bad. It's just from this topic perspective, I think it's important to pay to those customers a lot of attention.
Thank you very much. Tomen, you talked about CAM model and how different features they belong in the chart. But it's not just the features that we address in the development, sometimes it's also depth. How would you approach, let's say, technical or even some other product depth and CAM model?
Yeah, well, prioritization is an art. You have to always try something different or make your own framework, but not really. It's not a hammer for all nails. It's really about hypothesis of customer's perception. So either it's not a good model for prioritizing technical depth, or I can think of a way it can fit. For example, if a certain part of your product, like a feature or a job, is buggy, the experience is not good, then using a CAN model, you can ask a question and get answers about what are the value-driving moments or jobs in your product, and if you discover those intersect with the buggy parts, and the technical debt is the cause of those bugs, then you have your argument. But other than that, it's strictly customer focused. So.
Thank you. And I have two last questions for you guys. Because we want this event to be a bit practical, and we want people to bring something really they can use the day they arrive home. So what is your one tool that you recommend that really helps you? Probably no balanced answer. Helps you with product discovery. But Dilema, I will challenge you to figure and think about some other tool as well.
Do you know about the Microsoft alternative of Calendly? It's even better.
No, tell me about it.
So, Tom, any tips? And what makes your life easier when it comes to tooling that you use on a daily basis that helps you to sort of thoughts, etc., etc.?
Well, okay, one tool. Sorry, I don't like that question, but like. The critical tool is product board, but for discovery and the creative process, and a big enabler is a tool like Miro or Figma, because it's our daily bread and butter. We do workshops always in that, we do opportunity solution trees in that, we do user stories in that. So yeah, these are the critical enablers of collaboration, because discovery is all about collaboration.
Alright, I will give Willem more time. I don't like that question either, but there's not single thing. But I would like to nudge everyone to think about less about like software tools and hard-coded tools, and more about like mental tools. How are you going to organize stuff? How are you going to achieve stuff? How are you going to solve stuff in your organization or in your team? And there are many things that can make your life easier, as I shown in this presentation, like these structures, frameworks, how it may guide you through the discovery or through the problem that you need, and try to create the tool for you. Because you're in the unique position that I have this particular problem that I need to solve. And some tool might, like software tool, might solve something like 50% of the problem, but the rest is up to you. So try to think about it a little bit more like holistic, and come up with your own tool and do it in whatever Notion, on a paper, where whatever works for you.
experiment.
I would say that product board is really good for making some organized view on a lot of data which you get from different sources. So for that, it's really good. One thing, maybe unpopular opinion, I'm not sure how it's called, but the last module in product board, which will allow you to put like features on the internet and people can vote.
Validate.
How's it called?
Validate.
Yes. Like you basically tell people, okay, here's our roadmap, and you vote for whatever is more important. Well, I really don't like that. It's what happened to product board is a nice example. They did that, obviously they have to do it. It's their tool. People voted that they need to do integration with, I think at the time it was Salesforce. And it was like 4,000 people voted for that. It was like top one by far. It took them, I think, 2 years or 3 years to deliver because it was very complex. But the customers told like they don't listen to them, right? Like look, for 2 years most of the people are telling you to do the integration with Salesforce and you're just ignoring them, right? So it can turn against you as well. So you really need to consider whether this is a good tool for you or not.
Thank you. By the way, this event is not sponsored by Product Board. And my last question for you guys, because we also need to make this event trendy, and what is trendy is ChatGPT, right? But actually, I think you might again not like the question, but how can ChatGPT make your life easier when you are preparing for a discovery? Because I think there are some nice opportunities.
I like that question. ChatGPT is a nice streamliner of information, and there's a lot of information on product discovery, so I really like turning ChatGPT into guide or mentor or whatever, and just frame the prompts this way. Like, how would you structure this thing, or what is the most frequent way of doing this, and maybe do the opposite, maybe figure out if this makes sense for you. Use it to your benefit in this way. I've seen some tools that are built on top of ChatGPT, offering some like synthetic personas and stuff like that. I feel kind of conflicted about that. It's weird from what I saw. It just doesn't work yet. But yeah, just use it as a parser of information for you, and whatever you need. Again, like in the last response, you have your particular unique problem. Try to fit it into your problem.
I don't work anymore. No, not really, but probably like the best use case that saves me time in the product management job. By the way, the session was written by ChatGPT. Is that I'm trying to free up my communication center in the brain, and like I don't need to spend time composing research hiring emails, etc. Because yeah, it saves me tons of minutes. But when it comes to creative process, I haven't found an application yet.
Yeah, me neither.
Thank you. Just one disclaimer for those who might want to experiment with ChatGPT during your product discovery. Do not, and I repeat, do not upload company-sensitive information. We have many more questions, but here I want to pause because I know that the part everyone is waiting for is networking and a beer, so that's coming. I want to ask you for one last big round of applause for our speakers today because they did an amazing job.